I'd like to welcome you all here tonight. Gee, you know, I'm looking at all these people who have nothing to do on a long weekend. We're sure glad you want to come and spend an hour with us. Thank you. We'd like to begin our meeting by inviting Phil to come up and take a stand at the top, one of our guest speakers today. We'd like to stand and have an invocation by Carol Paz, and following that we'll have a Pledge of Allegiance by Wally Earhart.
Let us pray. Oh, gracious God, Father of each one of these precious gifts of life in this room, we would ask that you would superintend over everything that we have to say tonight and how it is directed. We would pray that your grace would fall fully upon this room of your children. We thank you for those who have come to listen. We thank you for those who come to represent points of view. May we listen carefully, may we trust you, and may we honor you in everything that we say and do. For it's in that precious name, powerful name of Jesus Christ.
Amen.
Please join me with the pledge to our flag of this great nation. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Please be seated. Thank you very much. I'm told by our secretary that we do not have a quorum, so we won't be taking a vote tonight. We're getting much closer, though. Please sign in. We have a lot of people here that are dignitaries. We would like to welcome you and the officers and officials. This evening, our agenda is going to include those that would represent us in Assembly District 40. Phil Davis and Pete Livermore are running for that office. And we'll hear from them later. Going down our agenda, our treasurer is absent tonight, so there'll be no report. Our Century Club, raise your hand, Marie. We'll skip that agenda item. The Carson City Republican Women.
We'd just like to invite everybody to attend our third Tuesday luncheons at Gold Dust West. And if you can't make those meetings, then talk to me and I'll tell you what other things we're doing.
Thank you very much. That was Janice Baldwin. State Convention, Precinct Organization, Events, Miscellaneous, Carol Howe. Well, oh, we have another.
We have a quorum.
Oh, we do have a quorum. Cool. I got to take a vote. Hang
tight.
We have people who have been coming. The rules in our bylaws say if you come to 3 meetings, we can elect you to be a member of our central committee. For those individuals that are going to be newly elected, please stand up. We have Dennis Johnson. Hand up in the back. Phil O'Neill. There's Phil. Ray Horsell. Thank you. Kay Horsell. And Jim Wilson. Holy mackerel, Jim. I see him here all the time. And Rosette Maltz. Thank you, Rosette. For those that are willing to accept these individuals as new members of the Carson City Central Committee, please say aye. Aye. Thank you. Any opposed? Boy, it's a unanimous vote.
Don't they have to give a speech? I appreciate it.
No speeches. Thank you. We'll turn the time over to Carol for some announcements. Thank you.
Well, we got our credentials report done a lot faster than they did at the state convention, didn't we? How many of you do not know or have not read or heard the reports from the state convention to know what happened at the convention. Anybody in this room? Okay. Rather than to go into all of the details, because as one of our delegates so appropriately said, it is what it is what it was, and there's not a thing that we can do to change it at this point. So rather than go into all of the details, during the break, check with the people sitting next to you. They were there, so they can tell you what it was in detail if you want to go into that. When the convention was over, the only thing I could do at that point was turn around to our delegation and attempt to apologize to them for what they had gone through for a day and a half. And I'm going to tell you exactly what I said to them as well. Again, it is what it was, and we do from here what we have always done in Carson City, and that is support our candidates and our party the best we can. And that's where we're going. I've had lots of phone calls with people concerned about what has happened at a state level because of basically the takeover of the party, and asked, do we have a party yet? Yes, we do. There's a lot of blame to be had and distributed for how that convention turned out. The Ron Paul people are actually, and I have done so, congratulated them for doing what they set out to do. The problem comes in where we had other candidates' campaigns that did not turn out their supporters, as did the Ron Paul supporters. We had other counties that didn't look at the possibility of what could happen and send an even delegation to the state party, to the state convention, which we did. And then there's the Republicans themselves that did not turn out and get involved. And that's where it comes down to us. To take this party back, to get our candidates elected, it's going to take all of us. Volunteering, working with our candidates, working with headquarters. We've scheduled now a walk for the candidates on the first and third Saturday of every month. Does that mean you can't walk during the evenings? Of course not. When it gets a little warmer, it's going to be much more comfortable to walk in the evenings and distribute candidates' information. We've got the walking lists ready and the door hangers stuffed. So we're ready to go. All we need is volunteers. We started a Get Out the Vote campaign on Monday, where we're calling every Republican in the county, reminding them to get out and vote, and to check to see if they have a need for assistance to get to the polls. Or are they going to vote absentee, and we'll track that as well. So we can do as much as we can do for our candidates to this point and through November. And that's my focus until between now and then is November. And I think everybody in this room is as concerned about November 6th as each one of us does. So if you've got any time and want to walk, you want to make phone calls, then let's get behind our candidates and move them along. Now, we are going to take questions if anybody has any questions about the convention. We're lucky to have one of the board members here tonight that can help us answer questions on a state level. If any of you have questions, that's what you're here for. That's why you're members of this committee, is so that you'll have the knowledge of what's going on every level. So if you have a question, we'll take a few minutes and see if we can answer them for you.
I have a question. Dave, let me walk up to the mic, please. They're being recorded tonight.
Yeah, I have a question. Electoral people that were elected, okay, they're all Ron Paul delegates. Are they bound to vote for the Republican? And how do we verify that they will vote for the Republican candidate, whoever that might be?
I saw Andy shaking her head. You want to answer that, Andy?
Yes, they are bound to vote for Mitt Romney if he's the candidate on the first ballot only. Can you guarantee that that's what they will do?
No. You're talking Electoral College.
The Electoral
College.
Yes, Electoral College will vote for whoever wins, and they are bound to do that.
And there's a $1,500 fine under our NRS codes if they don't. Does that, well, yes, you're right, that isn't much.
I don't want to. Oh, okay.
It's going into the recorder, so they're hearing you speak.
I don't want to argue the point. However, I looked it up on the Constitution, and there is no binding vote in the Electoral College.
No, there isn't.
It is we've got it in our NRS codes.
It's expected, but it is not in the Constitution.
Not in the Constitution, no, but there is an NRS code that has a $1,500 fine if they go back to Washington. And again, I realize that's not much versus running an ad campaign or that type of thing, but that's what it is. Any other questions?
Do we know about the other states, and did they have a problem with their conventions? I was just wondering.
From what I've seen, yes, they have. There's about 6 of them that had the same type of problems we did, where Ron Paul's supporters came in and literally took over and took the majority of the delegates. As late as last weekend, Minnesota's was the same way ours went. They took 12 of the 13 delegates in Minnesota. So yes, it was not exclusively Nevada that went through what happened at our convention. Any other questions?
Is there any recourse?
You'll have to come to the mic, please.
This is the Republican Party, not the Ron Paul Party. And so I just want to know, is there any recourse about the way this happened and came down? Because we know that delegates were not proportional. We also know that delegates signed up under other candidates and then went to the convention and voted for Ron Paul.
Off the cuff, and I'm going to answer this question and ask Jay to stand by as well. Was it last spring at the Fallon meeting for the State Central Committee, we were asked whether we wanted to do a proportional delegation and let the candidates select nominees to be the delegates to go to national. It was basically just that type of a question asked. There was no explanation. Nobody said at that time that this is the type of thing that could have happened. Nobody was prepared for this to happen. Recourse, I don't know of any recourse at this point. Had we known back at that spring meeting, we would have voted differently, I'm sure. And understanding at this time, if the same people are involved, 4 years from now, hopefully they will vote differently. Did you have any other comment on that?
I had heard a rumor that there's a possibility of our delegation not being seated for the national convention due to what happened here. Is that true?
That's a rumor, and from what I understand, that at this moment, that isn't even in consideration.
I only have a statement to make, not really a question. I was at the convention, and I heard a lot of the Ron Paul supporters saying that if Ron Paul didn't make the top of the ticket, they weren't going to vote. This is scary because this is the Republican Party, and whoever gets at the top of the ticket is who they should be supporting, no matter what.
That's right. Thank you. May I introduce Jesse Logg. Jesse's from Clark County.
Hi.
Pull that up a bit.
Okay. All right. I don't know. It's smarter than I am, I'm thinking. Okay. I'll just turn around. I wanted you to know, in terms of the electors, I don't have a great deal of concern about that. There are 6. I know personally 5 of the 6, and I have no doubt that any of you should have any concern about them voting honorably. The 6th person I just don't personally know. But my impression, and I will work very hard to make sure that this is true, my impression is that we don't have to worry about the electors. And I appreciate, because I'm not a member of your delegation, I just wanted to comment in terms of potential recourse. You guys were asking if they don't vote or whatever. I want you to understand that the RNC takes this very seriously. If people break rules, and they know it, they have 2 choices. They don't seat the delegation, or they just don't do a roll call vote on the first vote. They don't mess around. They have a heavy hammer. My job, that I've taken upon myself as a volunteer, is to communicate to these guys who've been elected, many of whom are just wonderful people, very excited, that if they mess around, they've wasted all of their volunteer efforts because they don't get to cast any vote at all. They don't get to speak in the bylaws or platform or whatever it is they want to do. They get to go to Tampa and just stand outside holding a sign. So I'm not saying that I can speak for them. I'm just letting you know that I'm working very hard personally so that they understand that they need to follow the rules, because everybody going to that convention had it in their heart that these people, when they're elected, they would at least follow the rules. So for what it's worth, I just wanted to comment on that. That's the RNC's 2 things that they'll do, and they do not take prisoners. So, and that's the message I give to them. So, thank you.
Jesse is here tonight at the request of the chairman of the State Central Republican Party, and he's got a game plan he would like to share with us, and he also would like to get your input. So at the conclusion of this meeting, anybody who would like to stay after and visit with Jesse, he'll take the message back, or he'll get our information and give us what their game plan is to help raise funds for the Republican Party, whatever. So at the end of this meeting, if you're so inclined, stick around for half an hour, 45 minutes afterward, and we'll have a little informal gathering with that in mind.
I'll use the term "these people." These people messed around 4 years ago with our caucus. They messed around again. And when the hell are we going to get rid of this caucus system?
I can answer that pretty clearly. We've got a petition out that we have asked every Republican to sign to take Nevada back to a primary. I have a motion on the floor of the state party so that the next time we meet, it'll be brought up as old business, that the state party will support fully any bills, any action to take us back to a primary in lieu of the caucus. James Settlemeyer has agreed to and has already got a bill pulled and in writing to do just that. Pete Livermore has agreed to do a sister bill through the Assembly to take us back to a primary in lieu of the caucus. So there is major work being done to do just that. Okay, let's make this the last question.
Well, it's a statement.
Okay.
I appreciate the gentleman from Clark County. Working these few months with these individuals, we kept asking them to be forthright, honest, and they assured us they would do the honorable thing. We can all trust each other, et cetera, et cetera. They have turned their back on the Republican Party. They have not done what they promised they would do. I just want to let you know that. So if you're going to get involved with these people again, don't trust them.
Well, let me say this. Team Nevada, which is the national, used to be called Victory, where they would bring volunteers in to work the campaigns in the area, is now called Team Nevada. They're opening up, I know, 4 offices in Las Vegas, probably 2 in Washoe, 1 here in Carson. In fact, we're looking at the office space tomorrow. And then there'll be 1 in Douglas. Team Nevada and Mitt Romney's campaigns are teaming up to go forward from here and get our nominee elected. Get the, I'm not going to say trickle down, but our Republicans lower down on the ballot elected. So it's up to us. It's up to the individuals and the Republicans to not let this happen and continue this party as a Republican Party. Now, I'm going to, one last time, no more after Amy.
I'm sorry.
Whoa.
And I know that you're so involved that maybe you can answer this. What is it going to take to get people between 20 and 50 involved in the Republican Party? Because it just seems that there's such a gap of people that are involved. And I know that we're registered Republicans, but what are we doing as Republicans to get people involved?
We do outreach all the time to every young person we come across. But you have to remember, when I was that age, I was raising children, I was working a job, I was going to school. I might have worked a campaign or so during that period, but for the most part, people are working 2 jobs now. Young people don't have the resources and the time to put into donating and volunteering that we, with the gray hair, the white hair, the seniors, dyed hair, thank you. No, mine's not dyed, it's rinsed. But we have to pick up the slack so that our children can raise their children and do what they need to do that we did. So do I force it with the young people? I do not. When we get them, I adore them. We've got a couple in this room right now, and one of them volunteers at headquarters. So anytime we can, I've got kids that we had helping us. We went to the high school and had them come in and help us plan the caucus. They're coming back and going to actually work headquarters during the summer. So there are young people involved, just not to the extent that we would like them.
I know you said it was the last one, but I was also at the convention. I was not a Ron Paul supporter, although he showed up and gave a speech. He talked. He supported his people. This is politics. This is the kind of stuff the opposition is going to pull. If we don't understand that, we're going to lose. These are young, sophisticated people that are playing the political game here, okay? And they're good at it. I didn't particularly like what was going on, but I could see the writing on the wall. He had the young people motivated. They were there, and they did their job, and they got it done.
Yeah,
and we need to embrace those people instead of worrying about what we're going to do. They're already there. We have to take advantage of that. I don't see very many of them here. What are we going to do about getting them into the fold? I think those are the things we need to talk about.
All right, I am going to close this conversation off, and we will be meeting if you have any questions, any input after the meeting. I just wanted, again, to remind you all, we have a fabulous website. If you don't check on it almost daily or 2 or 3 times a week, you're going to miss something. Right now we've added an opinion page. Karen, where are you? Way in the back. You can go on that, contact our webmaster, submit a opinion page, and she'll have it on our website. So take a look and stay connected to that website. We've got calendars, we've got links to the candidates. There's a lot of work that goes into it, but you'll learn a lot of things there too. So thank you all. And by the way, I'm glad you all came and didn't get blown away.
And once again, that's the reason we're doing the recording. And we have you come to the mic. This mic feeds into the tape, and this mic feeds into the tape. This mic goes over the loudspeaker. We're doing that because the last 2 or 3 times we've had this meeting, we've taped it, and then we put it on our website. So you can go to our website and watch this meeting again, or you can watch the candidates and how they answer the questions, or and that's why we're doing the taping, just to make us a little more visible. We also have a Facebook and a Twitter, and for those of you who don't understand, that's okay too. All right, we'd like to spend a little time now talking about Assembly Seat 40. We have 2 individuals who are running for that seat. I think what I'd like to do is give them all each about 5 minutes to stand up here and tell you why you should vote for them. And then we will have them stand side by side here, pass the mic back and forth, or I guess you could sit there and pass the mic back and forth, and answer your questions. So if you have a question of those who will represent you in the Assembly District 40, which encompasses now Olive Carson, please come up to the microphone. You can even queue up if you need to, ask your questions. We'll give them each a chance to answer the questions, and then we'll go to about 5 minutes before the hour, which is about 25 minutes. We'll flip a coin here, see who wants to go first. Do we care?
I'm not. I don't care. If you would like to go first, go ahead.
Phil, we'll let you go first. Oh,
that's the last one.
Pete, we'll let you go first.
Thank you very much, Jay, and thank all of you Republicans for being here tonight. What a turnout. I'm really impressed. Let me just say that a week ago I appeared before the Washoe County Men's Club, and Mr. Davies and I were the candidates there that night, and there was a whole sum of 9 people in the audience. So just to tell you that, the room was set for 90. So Carson City Republicans are really true concerns about where we at as a state, where we at as a nation, and where we are in our lives. But let me just say that a little bit about myself. As you know, I'm the current sitting assembly person in Assembly District 40. I was elected in 2010, and I was elected through a primary, which had 3 Republicans in. I was elected over a Democrat in the general. And this time, again, there's a primary. There's 2 Republicans in a primary, and there's, of course, will be a Democrat in the general against a Republican in this case. But I'd like to bring to you my certificate of accomplishments. As you know, that I've just stated, I'm going to go backwards instead of forwards. Generally, you start where you're born at and all your family and stuff like that. But I want to start at my last session in the legislature. And I spent 120 days there, and I really come to adore and love the process of what Nevada brings in its biannual legislative session. During that period of time, I not only had the opportunity to serve Carson City, residents of Carson City, I also had the opportunity to make a difference for the state of Nevada. And that's really, when you take that oath up there, that's what you're upholding, the Constitution of the state of Nevada. I served on government affairs, I served on taxation, I served on health and human services, and I served on natural resources. And my experience prior to that was being elected to 3 terms as the Carson City Board of Supervisors. I not only had that background and that experience to bring to my colleagues in Assembly Affairs and Taxation, that you can't bring that experience. God bless you. You can't bring that experience other than through the process of serving in that position. And I can tell you that if I was at the last Board of Supervisors meeting, there would have been one no vote on that budget, and it would have been my no vote. The difference between the supervisors and the assembly you can check my voting record. And my voting record there is if you go by NPRI record, I'm the sixth most conservative in the assembly, and they gave me a score of about 74%. The highest being somewhere, I think it was John Ellison, and he had something close to about 90%. So there's not a lot of differences. There was no Democrat of the 26 that was above 50%. They were all in the 30, 40% level. So just to tell you the scary part about how the vote takes place in there. So what's important about this next election? This next election, again, is about the balance of power in the state legislature, about the continual keeping of the numbers that the Republicans gained in the last election. One of two Republicans elected that made the 16th member of that, and that gave the governor the super veto majority that the Democrats couldn't overrule whatever they wished to do. And that's what happened in the last 5 to 10 years. And if you can remember, it goes back about far back as Assemblyman Connect in the back room back there when he was part of the Mean 15. And so now that we have that, we need to retain that, and we need to grow the Republicans in the Assembly, and we need to grow the Republicans in the Senate. The Senate has 10, 11. We have some really strong possibilities of taking control of the Senate, and I would fathom to believe to think that we will see an increase in Republicans in the Assembly, and that's really the important issue of how the legislative works. It is party politics, and the majority rules the House. And when you sit in a committee of made up of 15 people, and there's 10 Democrats and 5 Republicans, you know how fortunate you're going to be if you can get your bill out of that committee and get it through the Assembly and get it through the Senate and get it to the governor's signature. I was fortunate that I was the first Republican in the Assembly last year to have a bill that made it all the way through. And I attended I was very proud the day that the governor signed that bill for me, Assembly Bill 133. And let me just say that I was also a freshman that had 3 bills and had got 2 of them to the governor's signature, and which was a good accomplishment if you look at the voting records or the accomplishments of the majority of other people that had submitted bills. I can't compare with the Democrats because they had control of the House, but I look forward to working this year to bring some continued experience to that level. And who's the timekeeper here? Am I all right?
Hi, 4.5.
All right. Well, good. I got a half a minute here. Let me just say that my experience, and not only as an elected official, a county official, and a state official, but my business background experience. I had 35 years in local business where I put the pedal to the metal and the rubber hit the road at my business. Laurie Bagwell does the same thing that I did for the many years I was there. And the rules and the regulations and the taxes and the overburden of local businesses is an issue for me, and I'm going to support almost any bill that's out there that eliminates the regulations and eliminates the burdens of small businesses and their taxes and their burden in that. So with that, I think I've extended my 5 minutes. I'd like to just say thank you very much for allowing me to be here tonight, and hopefully that on June the 12th, that's after you go to the polls and vote, and again, return me to the legislature, and I will continue to work very hard for all of Carson City. Thank you.
Hi there, my name is Philip Davies. Some of you guys might know me. I've been hanging out for a little while here. I'm going to try to make this short and sweet. You know, I'm deeply concerned with what's happening on a state level and on a federal level regarding our freedoms and privacies. And that's why I'm running, is because, you know, there's that Jefferson quote that all tyranny needs to gain a foothold is for men of good conscience to remain silent. And I feel like it's time for just me to step up and kind of have my voice heard, because I am extremely worried about things. You know, you hear in the news, you know, about warrantless wiretaps and cell phone tracking, things like random checkpoints around, 9,000 random TSA checkpoints in the United States last year, and they just increased their funding. All these things worry me, and I feel like it's now time for the state legislature to take control and protect the individuals' rights within our state. If we can't rely on our federal government to do it for us, then we need to do it here. And, that's really about my only basis for my platform, and I hope that, me being the new guy around here inspires some of you maybe next time around to step up and have your voice heard as well. So, thank you.
Okay, I'll probably have you come up here and stand so you can be close to this mic and we can record it. I made a mistake about having you sit down and pass it back and forth. We'll turn the time over to you to pose questions. This is Assembly Seat 40. They represent Carson City. Tell us what you'd like. Challenge them on how they voted or what they would do if the situation or that situation arises. We'll turn the time over to you.
Hi, my name's Annette Mankins, and I've been involved with the Republican Party for a little over 4 years. And I appreciate Mr. Davies saying that he would like to be involved, because this last legislature, I had the opportunity to be able to see what Pete Livermore has done. I've sat in there. I've seen his hard work. I appreciate his conservatism. He's been involved in things that the local governments aren't even aware that is going on. I sat in those meetings, nobody there, nobody looking in on what's going on in our government. I was the only one. Everybody else there in their big suits and their handouts saying, I want this and I want that and I got this big budget, and they throw out all this paperwork. And there's only a handful of legislators that say, well, why is this? Or pick it apart here, or look at it there. And I just have to say, Pete, thank you for your service. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Annette. And I will attest, you attended every natural resource meeting in the war. And I think you learned a lot about the state and what the issues are facing, from the aquatic species that we're trying to control, to mining, to ranching, to everything possible you could think of, including bottled and canned deposits, all came before that committee. Thank you very much for being there.
Pass the mic.
It wasn't really a question, it was more of a statement.
You want to ask how much you paid her?
I'm Amy Clemens, and I would like to ask both of you why you're running and what your qualifications are for running for Assembly District 40.
I already said that.
We kind of went over that, but
go ahead.
Okay. Once again, I'll reiterate that I am running because I am very concerned about the fact that our liberties are being encroached on and our privacy is also being infringed upon. And so I would like to submit bill draft requests in the Assembly that might allow us to protect ourselves from an over-encumbering federal government.
Thank you, Mr. Davies. And as I said earlier, I'm a community member. I'm a community player, and let me just say that my raising of my family, my business activities in Carson City, leads me to the point that I'm there to control expenses in the legislature. I'm there to make sure that small businesses get a fair shake, and I'm there to make sure that even the aspects of health and human services and education is funded appropriately and not overfunded. And so that's my reason for running. Yes, sir.
Hi, I'm Art Horsell. We have, in most counties, a 3% cap on your taxes every year, which is insane. Do you realize in 30 years how much more it'll grow? When are you going to, in the legislature, put a zero cap and put it back to the people to vote taxes, not the damn supervisors? One of them is running, the mayor's running unopposed. You know, those three get together and it's a vice. When is you in District 40, whoever wins, when are you going to change the damn law?
Well, let me answer that from this perspective. The cap is set by the state legislature, and it's set by $3.66. It's $3.64, and there's a 2-cent override by vote of the public. But my statement is this: will there be attempts to increase that, to allow other county and local governments to expand that and extend that? And I think that's your point. If that is the case, then I will stand firm and solid with the sense that we need to put that maybe on a referendum. And I think everybody in this state has some form of ability to pay taxes. And, you know, as a retired person right now, I find this new tax increase is stretching my income. And I'm very concerned about not only my income, but your income too. And I'm going to do everything in my position, and my votes will be purposely directed to making sure that that tax rate doesn't increase.
Yeah, and I feel the same way. You know, any time that there would be legislation that would, you know, raise taxes would certainly be something I'd be opposed to. But, you know, we also need to consider the fact that we have a governor who decided to make an agreement with Amazon to impose a sales tax upon, you know, countless Nevadans. Okay, and where are we speaking up against that? I mean, I haven't seen any Republicans coming out within our state legislature speaking up against that. Nor has anyone really come out and said anything negative about him proposing the extensions on the sunsets of the business taxes and the sales taxes. So, you know, I think that those are some things that we also need to look at as well. And, you know, I just don't understand why we're not, you know, standing up to our governor when he's supposed to be this Republican that we're supposed to be holding accountable. So,
just a little rebuttal there. If you go back and go check my voting record on Senate Bill 586, 87, 88. I voted against the extension of sunset taxes, and I voted against the governor's budget. You can verify my voting record on that.
I'm Fred Christensen, and this is more directed at you, forgot your name, but...
My name is Philip.
Philip
Davies.
Philip Davis?
Davies.
Well, you say you were going for more privacy and less, like, phone tapping and stuff. How far do you think that should go? Like, if the government has, like, probable cause to be monitoring somebody, should they be able to?
Well, you know, I think if they have enough evidence to substantiate a warrant, then absolutely, by all means. Absolutely, I agree they should be able to monitor. But before that point, absolutely not. You know, unless they're going to state outwardly that they are monitoring that person. I don't think that we should have a system of law where it's meant to trap people rather than deter crime. I feel like deterring crime is much more valued than entrapping people.
Well, so far, that's a 15-year-old ninth grader that lives in Carson City and comes to Republican meetings. I like to personally compliment him on his delivery of his question and the subject matter that you have there. Thank you very much for being here tonight and asking that question.
What's your answer?
My answer, I'm sorry, I was so inspired by that. My answer is that we have a court system that oversees the wiretapping and the methods of that. And, you know, I trust that system of judicial. And I'm sure there are some errors made someplace in this thing. And if that evidence is showed, and you will find me supporting an enhancement to that. But until that is so, I'm just not going to blatantly go out and take criticism with the judicial branch.
My name is Dennis Maltz, and I never met a tax I liked. But I also understand that we have to have funds to run government at some level. I grew up in Texas, and Texas doesn't have many taxes. They have no income tax, just like Nevada. They have a small sales tax, well, similar to Nevada's. But where do they get their funds to run the government? It's primarily from the oil depletion allowance. How do the two of you feel about the fact that this, I believe, is the only state that has no mineral or oil depletion allowance in the United States? And wouldn't that be as long as we keep it reasonable and small so we don't discourage business, wouldn't that be a way to help fund state government? That's my question.
I believe what you're speaking about, mainly mining and the sorts of that.
We can only take gold and silver out once.
Sure, I understand that. And the method of how those taxes are derived is a complicated process, and I don't know that I can particularly or expressly speak to all of it. But let me just say, generally speaking, the mining industry many years ago has saw fit to take a referendum and amend the Constitution. And until that is changed, there's not a lot we can do about it. And that if that was to happen, there was a referendum threatened to be brought to Nevada for a vote, but it hasn't appeared yet. And until that, in the process of amending it, I don't disagree with what you're saying. And I don't love paying taxes, but I know it's my responsibility as a citizen to pay taxes. But I don't want to pay any more than I have to pay. And I don't want to pay for frivolous things, and I don't want to pay for higher salaries that are unachievable, and a retirement system that's unachievable. There are several reforms that I'm interested in this next session, and one of them is collective bargaining reforms. And that's a way to start making sure that the taxes that we currently pay are best used. And I have to be shown, I'm not from Missouri, but I could be. You have to show me a darn good reason why a tax is important that we have to burden, again, the population.
So now I'm a little confused. Is this regarding a tax increase on mining companies?
Well, depletion allowance. There's a new molybdenum mine coming into the Eureka area. There's gold and silver mine, and not on old stuff, but any new discovery. You're going to get that out one time in history, and unless you tell me you have to dump it back in the ground, I don't think you can. They're not going to be too fond about that either.
Well, now, still, I mean, are you saying?
Depletion allowance. You can never mine that gold or silver or molybdenum or whatever again.
Okay. Yeah, I'm still not quite understanding as far as what the depletion allowance is. So, as far as me not having the information on that, yeah, I could not answer that question specifically.
Let me add to my comments. If you look at how the minerals are levied through an assessment, through an assessor's office, it's not levied like an acre of ground. It's levied on the value of the product that comes out of it, and with an assortment of deductions from that. And that tends to be the bone of contention: is how much deductions are allowed in that. And I'm not sure that the level, if you were to tighten those loopholes, you may probably see an increase in those depreciation allowances. Laurie?
So my question to both of you is I recognize that collective bargaining, what the government employees make at the county level, city level, is what's choking out budgets. They're really, if you look at Carson City and the example that they just did, and 85% of their budget is salaries and benefits, there really isn't a lot of room as a board of supervisor to make a whole lot of decisions. And neither is there at the state level, because again, it's hugely staff oriented. If you're don't want to cause unemployment across the whole boundaries either. What are you actually looking at changing in the retirement system? What would you propose?
Personally, in the retirement system, I'm not too familiar with the retirement system for the state of Nevada, so that's another one that I really cannot answer specifically. But as far as budgeting is concerned, when you take a look at the state of Nevada's budget, I mean, you get the information, you get the numbers, and you get the subcategory numbers, but you really don't see an itemized what we're spending all of our money on. And rather than focusing specifically on just one section, I think that it would be valid for the state to provide that information where we can see specifically itemized what is our money being spent on, and then looking across the board for small pieces here and there that we can trim from. If we take a look at everything from what we're paying as far as contracts are concerned, what we're paying as far as office supplies, and as far as utilities or maybe the buildings that we're occupying, what are these specific amounts that we're paying? And when we itemize it out like that, there is bound to be a small percentage we can take from every sector.
It is line by line.
I hate to tell you, Phil, it's line by line. I used to do it.
Well, as far as what is available for us to look at as citizens, if you go to the state of Nevada's budget website, I can't see it item by item. All I can see is specifically...
Yeah, you see lumped in categories.
Yes.
Well, actually, on the state level now, over at the budget office, you can actually drill down. At the legislative site, you can see the summaries, but there is one that you can...
Specifically, what I was addressing was as far as only seeing subcategories and just general categories, and that's all that I've seen. I have not seen item by item. Yeah. And if you can give me a web address that I can look at, I'd appreciate that.
Yeah, because the budgets, I guarantee, line by line by line.
Okay.
Let me add, you lumped a couple of things. You lumped collective bargaining, and you lumped the public employees retirement system in that. And the public... Can you hear? Okay, and you lump the public employees retirement system in that too. And I'm concerned about the current retirees, and I'm concerned about the current employees. That system has to change, and I'm willing to suggest that it changes to maybe a defined contribution, like a 401k plan. And currently right now, if the system was to fail now, the state of Nevada is about $9 billion in the red, sitting at that level over there. That's our risk at that. If we don't manage that, we don't control that. And go back to collective bargaining. State of Nevada employees don't have collective bargaining. And you saw what the governor did by reducing the salaries by 2.5% and 6 furlough days. The bone of contention in collective bargaining at the county and city level is the binding arbitration issue. When you got an arbitrator that sits in California and can force a layoff of 1,700 school teachers in Clark County, something's wrong with that. He was not elected to manage the budget of Clark County School District, or was he elected to give me information? But he is an arbitrator by a declaration that he has come to obtain, and I have a problem with that. So those are my two issues with that.
I'm Ron Connect, and as a member of the once upon a time Mean 15, I have one power left. We agreed that we have the power to anoint honorary members, and Pete, I make you an honorary member of the Mean 15 for your service in the last legislature.
Well, Ron, thank you very much for that.
But now I have a question. Very simple question for both of you. I realize, having been there and having fought for school choice issues, and actually on getting one school choice small measure through the legislature, and it had to go without my name because the Democrats wouldn't let anything with my name go. I realize that it's very difficult to push the ball down the court on increasing parental choice, and I'd like to know each of your positions on parental choice, up to and including vouchers and other measures, and what you might think you might be able to do in this legislature to help school choice. Thank you.
Well, Ron, thank you very much for making me a member of the Mean 15. Does that mean I'm 16 or 15? I'm not sure what number I would have.
15A.
Okay, 15A. But, even my last campaign was about school reforms. And one of the school reforms is parental choice, and of course, by all means, the parental choice of uses of vouchers and the sorts of that. And I think I haven't all from that position, and I will again lend my support to. Although I didn't serve in education, I'm not sure exactly what my committees will be next year, but I'll lend my support and to whoever's in that position, and my vote would reflect that on the assembly floor to make sure that education and parental choice is a top priority for me.
Yeah, and I absolutely agree with having the parents in full control over where and how their children are educated. And as far as the voucher system is concerned, I've heard bits and pieces of how that should be addressed. I'm not entirely sure that I am in favor of it, but I mean that's yet again something that I'd have to see more information on. I mean, as far as I understand it, it's where what the state government would provide a voucher for them. So rather than the public school within that district getting that money, then they could use that money specifically to take it to maybe a private school or a charter school, right? Yeah, and so I do kind of think that does sound like a good idea, but specifically I don't know if I could agree with that just based on, the varying rates for private schools and such like that. So specifically, I don't know for sure if I could support that, but would you like to address the voucher?
Well, let me clarify something on my position with this. Competition is good. And if you don't place competition in the education system, it will linger as it is. And that's why vouchers and charter schools are important, because it places a competition level there. And as people decide to go to a school that fits their needs better, it will only force the public system that we've all probably went through to improve. Yes, sir.
Everybody's looking at a new revenue stream, and I understand what you're trying to do, but my understanding is, and I'm going to ask both of you this, I understand that 80% of Nevada is owned by the government. The other part, well, the first part is, what can you do to relinquish the federal mandate that they keep this land rather than bring it back to the state and sell it off and, basically money? That's one revenue stream. The other revenue stream, everybody's big on recycling. Recycling this, recycling that. I mean, I recycled my hair every time I cut it. But the thing is, what's the matter with Yucca Mountain? Setting it up like the Europeans do and the rest of the world to do recycle of that nuclear matter. It's safe. There's been no problems with it. Do you support something like that for Yucca Mountain, or you are against it?
I absolutely agree with the idea of reprocessing spent nuclear waste. Now, specifically, if the other states that wanted to relinquish their waste to us, if they wanted to pay us a sum to relinquish that waste and for us to take it and reprocess it, that would be one revenue stream. For us to reprocess it and then redistribute it, that'd be another revenue stream. And since the facility is, basically ready to go, I mean, I don't understand why it would be such an issue. But yeah, I definitely agree with that type of idea, since the technology it exists, and I think
it's not a good idea. There's no proven evidence there's a value in that stuff that will be shipped to us from across state lines. Our safety, our public transportation system has a lot of issues dealing with this. And it's been the government of Nevada, through the past 6 governors at least, that has fought to make sure that the Yucca Mountain was never to be developed to the process is what you assumed it could be.
My name is Dennis Waltz again, just for the record. I'm a nuclear physicist.
You can hear you.
Oh, the mic doesn't work?
Oh, that doesn't work.
It just sends an audio
Here,
feed.
use this one.
Okay. All right, I'm going to turn around.
Turn around, go ahead.
I'm a nuclear physicist. I have a small nuclear consulting company here in town. I've been working on this issue of nuclear waste reprocessing. I'm against throwing it in Yucca Mountain. I'm all for reprocessing it. It's a real cash cow.
Yes.
Secondly, I have a proposal I sent to the Nuclear Regulatory Commission earlier this year. Our governor, senators, and our representative are all aware, they've been told that, an application to start reprocessing at the Hawthorne Weapons Depot. Secondly, I was told by the Nuclear Regulatory Commission, this is why Jasko was still there, that I have to talk to DOE. Now, DOE had something called the Blue Ribbon Commission, which was the biggest waste of time I've ever seen in my life. $6 million to suggest a new government agency. That's the most asinine thing I've ever heard. Right now, it is to DOE, and Congressman Ambe and I have had many conversations on this issue. He likes the idea of reprocessing, but not shoving in a hole in the ground. That's the way I feel. Why throw something, a perfectly good commodity, in the ground? Because you must realize that the majority of the fuel is still there, so why not use it?
Do you have a question for our leaders?
I don't think that's a statement.
So the question is, the point is that this is for this. So I respect your two opinions. The problem is it's perfectly safe. I've handled so much radiation you can't imagine, and there's not an issue with that. And the final point on this is that I want, and I'll let them respond to this in a second, why are you worried? Even if you did throw it in Yucca Mountain, why are you worried about the 1% problem of Yucca Mountain when the 99% from the underground nuclear tests are there, it's loose, you're never going to get rid of it.
Well, my position hasn't changed, and I appreciate your comments and your knowledge of what are there. The nuclear test that took place in the 50s and 60s was long before. We can't go back and redo that, but I don't want to create a system that we all have to worry about in the future. So my position stands as I communicated.
Yeah, and I still stand in the same position. I do agree with the idea of reprocessing and using it as a revenue stream for the state.
Andy Engelman. First of all, most of these issues are federal issues. They're not state issues. And the decisions will be made in Congress, and the Nevada legislature can send resolutions to Congress, but they have no say over it. This is a federal issue. So my question is more for Phil. I'm trying to gauge from your platform exactly what you would do for us at the legislature. What, for instance, you talk about liberty, what would be your first bill draft request?
Well, specifically, I read a report from the ACLU that stated that based on court documents and public records that there were between 2007 and 2011 numerous occasions in which law enforcement throughout the state had been monitoring and tracking people based on their cell phones only because of the fact that there was no state legislation that prevented them from doing so without a warrant. So I would start there by making legislation that would require law enforcement to have a warrant. One other thing that does concern me is recently we had the governor make an announcement that he wanted to enter into an agreement with our federal government regarding making us the Silicon Valley of drones, unmanned aerial drones. Okay, back in 2011, one of our drone bases in Nevada actually had their systems infected with a virus. So that's one major concern that we should have is the security of these unmanned aerial vehicles and the fact that there are states within the union that are considering arming these unmanned aerial vehicles. So I would like to offer protections on Nevadans in order to not have those aircraft used within our state on citizens without a warrant, and definitely not lethally without police presence on the scene. So that's just a couple ideas as far as what I might suggest as a BDR regarding privacy and liberty.
Any other questions?
That was aimed at me. So, yeah.
Let's give them a big hand. Thank you. We appreciate them taking their time tonight to share their ideas with us. Please read your agenda down at the bottom are the upcoming events. We haven't talked about them, but there's some good events that are taking place in the next few weeks. Also, there's a flyer going around telling you what's happening with legislation or our president signing contracts with people without the authority to do so of the legislatures, and be aware of that. One more thing to be aware of. My wife purchases food from dehydrated companies that have food storage type things. And on 2 different occasions in the last year, they said they're totally out of food because Homeland Security came in and just bought millions and millions of packets of food. And so it's really hard to get that, to wait till the next crop came in and wait for them to process it again. So slowly there's some food coming back on the market.
Jay,
but
you also actually bought out 3 of the major producers of the dehydrated and
so they now own the plants that make dehydrated
I
foods.
don't know if it's Homeland, but it was the government that bought them out.
And we got a report this week that Homeland Security and the Department of Agriculture is buying millions and millions of rounds of ammunition. So if you want to buy 400 million? 40 million. Oh, 40 million. So if you want to buy 232, 40 caliber, 45 caliber, 9 millimeter, you're just out of luck because it's off the shelves now. So there you go. So just pass that along, let you know that our government's busy stimulating the economy and preparing for the future. I'll, with that, entertain a motion to dismiss with the idea that when we do dismiss, we're going to have a casual get-together with Jesse. And I've just noticed another one of our state officers walked in. We'd invite him to join with us. And did you extend a motion? A motion to dismiss, a second? Thank you. Any discussion? Seeing none. Thank you. We'll see you in a month from now.